It looks just like a war zone. It looks just like the footage you see of Germany after bombing. It's indescribable. There's a quiet that it's hard to describe. You think it'd be a lot more noise, but people are in a somber mood as it is. It just looks devastating. The smoke, a lot of it is also, it's not smoke, it's steam, because they're pouring a lot of water onto the areas where we're cutting, because as the sparks fall, it ignites insulation, curtains, drapes, I can imagine, any type of flammable. So we have people spotting for the fires also. You know, it's a slow process. It's going to take a long time.
How about morale?
Well, a lot of these firemen that you see down there, you see it in their faces. They've lost blocks of men, whole companies in some cases. The police, 25 regular policemen, 25, 30 Port Authority policemen, and plus all of the operating engineers who ran the systems of the buildings, electricians that have been there since the place opened. When companies move in and out, they have to remodel, they have to reconfigure partitions. Carpenters we lost there, members of my own union. It's just a real, you know, everybody's lost somebody.
You were telling me about a special occasion you were planning for at that very location.
Yes, my sister had told me a few weeks ago, her and my brother-in-law were planning on coming down here to the city to do some sightseeing and window shopping and so forth. And I offered to take them after they had their trip to Windows on the World. So I had made reservations for October 6th, my sister's birthday, for us at 7 o'clock. And as it turns out now,
just in case you don't know, Windows on the World is the restaurant that was located at the top of the
105th and 106th floor.
I know you have to leave now.
Yeah,
what are you going to do?
I think I'm just going to walk north for a while and just see people and take some comfort in that. You know, it's good to be out around people and something you see something like that.
Robert Perry, thank you.
Oh,
thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Aaron, he is just one of countless thousands of people that are involved in the effort now. An effort that, as you hear, is still very much filled with hope. Aaron?
Well, if they have hope, then we do too. We'll share it with them. There are almost 5,000, at least 5,000 almost missing still down in that obscene mess that was once the World Trade Center, and we wish nothing but good fortune to those people who are working so hard on this beautiful Saturday afternoon in New York City in September. Thank you, Marty. It was I think it was when we were talking to Marty yesterday, he talked at one point about how if they think they hear a noise, a ping, someone banging against something, it just goes absolutely silent there. And everybody stops what they're doing and they try and locate the sound, because that sound might mean somebody is alive down there trying to let somebody know that they are still alive. New Yorkers have come out, and really people around the country have come out in extraordinary numbers to offer help to the people on the scene, to the missing, the families of the missing and the like. Bill Hemmer is at, I think it's the Javits Center, where it's the big convention center here in New York, where the volunteer effort is being coordinated. Bill joins us now. Bill, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, Aaron, I will tell you, it's remarkable. We've been in this area, about a city block area, for the past 8 hours. I don't think we've gone 5 minutes for the past 8 hours where someone has not come up to us and say, we need to get the word out on this or on that for what we need here. And the list right now, it continues to grow. Desperately, they're saying they need respirators, especially the ones with the replaceable canisters, in order for the workers to continue their work down there without having to change their masks too often. They're also saying hard hats with lights, especially working at nighttime, welding equipment and welding gloves, the long ones that come up your arm. They're saying work boots and goggles are in desperate need as well. Now, the Javits Convention Center, as you mentioned, is where we are. We're on 11th Avenue between 34th and 35th. If there's somebody out there or some company, and believe me, there have been many today and also throughout the week, if you want to contribute, they're saying you can bring it right here to the convention center. That will expedite it in the best way, the quickest way, down to the site further south from here. All other items, they're saying, in terms of food and clothing and water, they're saying hang on for a little bit. Maybe they can take more of that a couple days from now, but in the meantime, they have plenty of that at this point. non-perishable is being taken out to Shea Stadium here in New York and Giant Stadium across the river in New Jersey. Just to bring up another point here, just about a couple minutes ago, somebody came up and said, if anyone has a wireless internet connection, we need it at this point, and they need it here from Javits. Boxes and bins also to help carry things and sort things throughout this entire process. That's on the supply side. Now for the volunteer side. We saw better than 2,000 volunteers line up early this morning, some as early as 1 o'clock in the morning. We were here about 5:30 and saw hundreds and hundreds of people trying to get on a bus, trying to get on top of a flatbed truck to take them down to the site and help and contribute there. We were told about 2 hours ago no volunteers are needed at this time. They say they have plenty of help where they are right now. In fact, I don't know if we had the videotape or not, but our photographer, Rich Brooks, just walked that line several hours ago, and when Rich walked, he walked and walked and walked because the line literally came down the street corner here, took it right on 34 straight toward the Hudson River and kept on going. That is the amazing turnout we have seen thus far here. So the volunteers at this point are saying, they're being told thank you, check back in a couple of days, and it's possible they could hitch you right at that point. Aaron, it's an incredible scene on the streets of New York. We'll watch it for you here down at the Javits Center.
Thank you. And just to reiterate that it is not so much people they need now as things that they need now. Very practical things from, I think they're respirators. They look like gas masks with those little side filters on them, to welding gloves and the rest. So if you want to be helpful, please do. Bill, thank you. Listen, I was driving in today on the West Side Highway. It's the first time I've done that since it happened. And it was the strangest drive-in I can ever imagine. Elizabeth Cohen is at the Armory where the missing have gathered, as many of you know, and she joins us again. Elizabeth.
Aaron, here at the Armory, some 3,000 families have come to register information about the people who they're missing and also to look at two lists. One list is a list of people who have been found in the hospital. Another is a list of people who have been found deceased. I am here with someone who is looking for his brother. Anthony Gardner is looking for his brother Harvey and also for Harvey's friend Joyce. And Anthony, tell me, when was the last time anyone heard from your brother?
My brother Harvey worked for a company called General Telecom on the 83rd floor of Building 1. My brother Mark miraculously managed to get in touch with him after the initial crash. And Harvey said that they were being told conflicting things. They weren't sure what to do. And that was the last we've heard. We know that he's with his great friend and co-worker. We know they're together, and there were 13 people in that company at that point. And we haven't heard anything from any of them as of yet, but we remain hopeful that they will come home to us, that they are out there. And I'll come down here every day and check the lists until we find their names on there.
You told me that someone from a church gave you this flower, and it has a psalm on it that you said expressed how you feel. Could you read that for us?
Of course. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear. And I think that sentiment is felt all over New York, all over our country. We will only become stronger from this, and we will just persevere from here. And my hope is that they find our loved ones and they bring them home to us, and we rebuild those towers, and we show terrorists and terrorism that they will never succeed and they could never beat us.
Tell me about the necklace you're wearing.
I'm wearing my brother's necklace. Wednesday, he's going to kill me when he comes home. Wednesday, I went to his apartment and I took this as his favorite necklace, and I'm wearing it until he comes home, and I'm going to give it back to him when he walks back in the door.
Thank you.
That he will come home. We have a tremendous amount of hope.
Thank you.
And that's what we want all other families to have right now. Just keep the faith that they will come home to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron, hope is a word that you hear over and over again. It's Saturday. The explosion was Tuesday. The hope is still there. Aaron?
I would call it more than hope. He seems certain. I'm kind of liking that. Thank you, Elizabeth, very much. You probably now know the name Reverend Michael Judge. He was the fire department chaplain who died on Tuesday. At his funeral, former President Bill Clinton was there, and he talked briefly to reporters, and he said, among other things, he urged his fellow citizens to be confident, to trust President Bush to make the right decision. We suspect the former president is understanding better than at any time in the last 8 months or so the unique and sometimes difficult role a former president has in American life. CNN correspondent Brian Nelson was at the funeral as well. Brian.
Hello, Aaron. I'm standing in front of Fire Station 24, which is just across the street from where Reverend Judge was memorialized this morning in funeral services. And after the services were over, we spoke with the former president, and he was speaking about the courage of the New York firefighters since the tragic events on Tuesday. And then I asked him about what his feelings were, knowing the fact that this funeral here today and two others in the city of two other firefighters are probably the first and leading edge of hundreds and perhaps thousands of funerals across the city resulting from the World Trade Center disaster. Here's what he had to say.
I think that we'll have to take the appropriate action. Thousands of innocent people died. And I think that
181 on radio.
You know, that's a decision for the president to make, but I've said before, I'll say again, I think that we should trust the people there to find the truth and take the right action. And the rest of us should worry about taking care of the victims and their families, rebuilding the city and the country, and continuing to make America a force for tolerance and decency.
Now, the former president also went on to say he made a point of saying that the tragedy of the World Trade Center should not be taken as reflective of Arabs. He says there's a huge Arab and Muslim population in this country, and perhaps referring to the fears of some sort of backlash, he said we should, as a nation, this nation, should stand up for decency and tolerance as a people, but he said we should be absolutely intolerant of the kind of violence witnessed here on Tuesday. That violence, of course, took thousands of lives, and as I said earlier, it took the life of Father Michael Judge. He was the chaplain for 10 years of the New York Fire Department, an amazing man by all accounts, 68 years old. He befriended everyone in the fire department, took all comers with their personal problems, marital, alcohol problems, children in the hospital. He took on all comers. He was known far and wide in the city, especially by the homeless of New York. When they saw him coming, they knew that he would sidle up to them and hand them $1 out of his pocket, a stash of which he kept just for that at that moment. He was also known abroad too. This man was well known in the city and elsewhere, and it was a really moving ceremony today. Let's listen in. Clinton addressed the congregation during the funeral services today and said that she and her husband had invited the Reverend Judge to the White House for a prayer service breakfast, and she was amazed at how this man just lit up everything inside. He was a man who was just brilliant and full of life, and that was the thrust of her remarks today. Mr. Clinton himself said that Reverend Judge's entire life was a rebuke to the kind of violence that we've witnessed at the World Trade Center on Tuesday. And now, Reverend Michael Judge has become the first New York City Fire Department chaplain to die in the line of duty. Aaron?
Brian, thanks. The motto of the fire department, New York's bravest. And as we reflect back on the events of Tuesday, nobody will argue that. Not now, and I suspect not ever again. There are still almost 300 firefighters, I think I got the number right about 300, who are still missing in the rubble among the 5,000 missing there. In Israel today, right now, in fact, at Rabin Square, there is a solidarity rally going on. The Israelis, of course, a unique relationship with the United States, and perhaps few, if any, other country on the planet understands the devastation that terrorism can cause. They've lived with it for a long time, so it is a marriage in that regard of note. You've got a friend indeed. The Israelis, and a little bit of news coming out of Israel too, we might mention, there was a plan for a meeting between Shimon Peres and Yasser Arafat to take place tomorrow. That now has been canceled, and we'll try and figure out why, though I do believe that Prime Minister Sharon yesterday said that he did not think the time now was right for any sort of negotiation between the Palestinians and the Israelis in the aftermath of Tuesday's terrorist attack. That meeting with Perez and Arafat has been canceled, and these pictures live from Rabin Square in Tel Aviv. Here around the country this Saturday there is an attempt, I guess, to get life back to normal. It hadn't been a very normal week, not simply here in New York, certainly, but around the country. All the sporting events, Major League Baseball, football, all canceled. Some college football games are being played. But in places like Des Moines, Iowa, and others, the kids are playing soccer, and families are out there with their kids, and Jeff Flock is out there as well to give a sense of how those of us, those outside of New York, are handling the weekend. Jeff, good afternoon.
Indeed, Aaron, it is a reminder that for most of this country, life does go on, and in some sense this is a return to life. This is a soccer tournament here in Des Moines. As we said, this is where our travels take us today. I want to tap this young lady on the shoulder. Your daughter's out there playing. Is this a good thing to try to get back to this? I know the pro games are all canceled.
Yeah, I think the kids need to show a little bit of normalcy, and it gets their minds off things for a moment.
Where's your mind right at this moment?
At this game and with all the Americans in New York.
What's the next step for this nation?
I believe we're going to war.
You ready for that?
We take the right steps and get our ducks in a row. I'm ready.
I hear that. I want to sample that same sort of sentiment out here. This young lady we were talking to just said, we're going to war. She's pretty confident. What do you think?
Well, I think there's going to be some degree of conflict and pursuit of the people that did the terrorist act, but I don't know. You know, it's difficult to say what kind of war it's going to be.
I hear you. I want to bring this young lady in. Also, we got stock market opening again on Monday. You worried about the future of this nation in some sense, whether it be economy, safety?
No, I'm not.
Tell me why.
This country was founded on solid principles that had to do with integrity, honesty, endurance, perseverance. And I believe what we have seen in the midst of all the trauma that we have gone through is that American spirit reemerging. So,
where is that spirit going to take us next? This young lady we talked to over here said war is coming. How do you feel about that?
That's a possibility. A man has the right to defend his home. And what America has done time and time again is to honor other countries in their effort to defend their home. So I believe, given the principles we were founded on, it would not surprise me.
To what sort of lengths, I want to bring this fellow in who helped organize this tournament, what lengths do we go to, does the U.S. go to?
I think that we take whatever is necessary, whatever action's necessary to retaliate if that means going to war.
Do you have any sense at all what that means at this point? Because this is obviously not a clear-cut case of we know who's out there.
No, we really don't. And I have 3 boys that are draft age, so I have a pretty good sense of it. But I think that the country has a right to defend itself and defend its way of life. And if we need to do something, then we should do it.
And lastly, any second thoughts about canceling the games out here? You got 130 or 40 teams?
Yes, 139 teams from 7 states. No, we thought about it, but this was very important for the families and the kids to be together. We thought this was a great opportunity for them to be together, and we've taken some steps to certainly recognize the tragedy and have all of us share in that.
Good deal. Tim, appreciate the time. Thanks very much. As you can see, Aaron, as we said, for much of this country, life does go on, such as it is right now, but the events that surround you there are not very far from anyone's mind here on this soccer field half a country away in Des Moines. Back to you.
Well, the truth is it would be almost overwhelmingly depressing if you think about it if life was not getting back to normal. Part of what is comforting, I think, for those of us in New York is to know that around the country, while people send good wishes to the rescue workers and to the people here, life has not stopped. Life, in fact, does go on, must go on, and should go on. Have you noticed, you've been in Wisconsin, I think you were in Dubuque yesterday, Des Moines today. Has the mood changed over the course of these days?
Yeah, interesting you asked that, because I do get a sense of that, that, you know, we were almost in shock so much that there wasn't room for any other emotions. I didn't feel a lot of other emotion beyond shock. Today we're really starting to get the first sense of anger, of genuine anger out here, and it'll be interesting to track that and see where that goes nationally.
Well, the kids look great, and the soccer looks fun, and we appreciate your hard work this week. Thank you very much. Jeff Locke, who's been out of the bubble of that we all have been living in here in New York and in Washington. The rescue efforts go on. The funerals now have begun. This tragedy shifts to its next chapter, it feels like today. And we shift here for a little bit. We're going to go to Atlanta and a special edition of Talkback Live. So we're joined now by our colleague, Bobby Batista. Bobby, good afternoon.
Aaron, good afternoon to you. And this is a special Saturday edition of Talkback Live, America Speaks Out. We will be here for 2 hours today, and we hope that you will take this time to share your thoughts and your fears and your stories about this week's tragedy. By the way, among the folks in our studio audience today, a group of Atlanta firemen, policemen, and a group of international students as well. I'm going to go right to the audience. There are some deep and passionate feelings at work here. Walt, you are a veteran. Which war?
Yes, I am a veteran of World War II and Korea. I believe that when we enlisted or joined the military forces, we did so with the idea that our life would be placed upon the line. This tragedy, this profound insanity that has engulfed us in the last couple of days is aimed not at us, but at the people of this country, the men, the women, the children, the old, everybody but primarily military, except for the raid upon the Pentagon. I believe our government needs to stop its infighting and bickering among political parties. I believe they need to pay attention to the needs of the country and the people, and I believe that the country in itself must declare last Tuesday as the last day of complacency.
And Jeff, you are angry as well.
Yes, I am very angry. And I just finished reading the book, The Band of Brothers, which is now on HBO, and I think everybody should watch it. But I think we need a band together now as brothers and sisters of the United States, as not as Army people, but as Americans, and go forward. And also, Monday is going to be a very important day for us in the United States because of the stock market. And we must not respond irrationally. We must stop and think, and we must be able to do something. And maybe the money that we've gotten from the government, the $600, is everybody should take some of that and instead of selling, go out and buy maybe just one share of stock, whatever. And I think we need to keep our country together.
Good advice for go out and buy American. William's on the phone from Illinois. William, go ahead.
Yes, it's William from Illinois. I have one comment to make, in that I think some of the things that are happening here are a failure of our government to, during the Cold War, their policies, the countries that they supported, the regimes that they supported, I think it built up this animosity of the people that perpetrated this attack on our country. And I'm not condoning that. I'm just making that as a statement. But what I'm concerned about here is we're trying to build an alliance now where even the Russians are on our side. And I think that maybe they might have their own agenda, and we have to be careful there. But one thing to mention, being a Vietnam veteran and knowing what happened after we pulled out of Saigon during that war, there were a lot of our people there, our friends, that we just kind of left high and dry. And I think...
Oh, William, I think we just lost that call. We're trying to keep the comments as brief as we possibly can so we can get as many opinions and comments and questions in. I'm going to bring a couple of guests in at this point who can address some of your concerns and your questions. New York Congressman Gerald Nadler is with us, as well as Thomas Reynolds. They were with President Bush yesterday as he surveyed the devastation at what used to be the World Trade Center. Also joining us is James Zogby, president of the Arab American Institute. Welcome to all of you, gentlemen. I know you've been listening to some of the comments that you've been hearing here in the last few minutes or so, and I'd like to get your reaction. I think most Americans, it seems to me, as I've been listening to them, Congressman Nadler, are getting they're tempering their anger, if you will, somewhat, and they're ready to support the president and the Congress in this the approach of using a little restraint and intelligence and having our response come on a more measured basis.
Well, I hope we always use intelligence in whatever we do, obviously. The goal is not vengeance. The United States was viciously attacked with large casualties. We don't know the extent yet. The first goal has to be to make sure that this is the end of it, to take on the terrorist organizations so they can't do it again. The first goal is protection in the future, and that probably means not just striking out in blind vengeance at a terrorist organization, but really with our allies, with other countries around the world, taking apart the terrorist networks. That's not going to be easy, and it doesn't mean carpet bombing Afghanistan or any place else, but it's going to be a long, hard struggle to take apart these organizations, destroy them, if you will, that have sworn and now shown that they mean it, to kill as many of our people as possible. We didn't seek this, but that's it. I was struck by one other thing that I haven't heard much comment on, and that is these people did not have any demands. They didn't demand that we change our policy in the Middle East or in the Persian Gulf or anywhere else. And that's essentially because it has nothing to do with that. They are opposed to us because we're the great Satan. We're the great Satan because we represent what is abhorrent to them, democracy and freedom and modernity. And that's a threat to them. They are opposed to us. They hate us because of who we are and what we are, not because of what we do. And so we have no choice but to carry out the struggle, hopefully in as restrained a manner as possible and in an intelligent manner as possible, but we have no choice.
Let me get to Nick on the phone in Pennsylvania first, and then Sarah. Nick, go ahead.
Bobby.
Yeah.
We've just watched a foreign entity use our own airplanes to destroy our own country and kill our own people. Something has to be done about this. These pilots trained at our universities, at our flight schools, and they knew who these 19 people were so quick after the fact. Why didn't they know who they were before the fact? They have to get tighter. They have to have restrictions on who comes in this country. They have to investigate these people more and more, over and over again. You can't let foreigners in here that have the idea of destroying this country, this great country which we all love.
Well, we can't assume that all foreigners are going to do that either. Sarah's about ready to jump out of her skin. She was born in Iran.
Yes, I'm Sarah. I was born in Iran. I've moved here when I was 10 years old, and I've gotten all my education here, and I love this country. And what really upsets me is to see that these people benefit from the United States. They have dollars in their bank accounts, but yet they're willing to kill our people and terrorize against us. But one thing that's really important that I've really been thinking about these days is that through every crisis there's an opportunity, and the opportunity here that we must all embrace is that the countries are coming together and we're all unifying. The United States is unifying, and we need to stay together and we need to fight this together. That's the only way we can fight this tragic incident.
I want to bring James Zogby into this conversation. We also have with us in the audience a number of Arab Americans or Americans of Middle Eastern descent. And your comments on the backlash that could come as a result of all of this.
Well, Bobby, it's already come, and we're seeing it almost every day. My office got death threats. I personally did. Arab Americans all over the country and Muslims and their institutions have been paying a price in the last few days. The news reports are filled with them, and people are afraid. But I'll tell you that what has gratified me is the extraordinary support from the top down. The President, the Attorney General, and Secretary of State made strong statements. The Justice Department has launched a program to work with us nationally to stop these hate crimes and to send out directives to law enforcement on the question of profiling. At the same time, the U.S. Senate unanimously passed a resolution, and I know the House is considering one, decrying violations of civil rights and also violence or threats of violence, hate crimes against Arabs and Muslims. This is, as I think all of the folks in the audience have said, a time for America to come together and operate as one country. We cannot either bury our unity or bury our Constitution as we seek to unify our people to wipe out this scourge of terror. The person who said it was right. There were no political demands here. That's Congressman Nadler. This is not a political phenomena. This is a test of our will as a country to be unified and to build the broadest international and, I think, national